All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, citizens of YouTube. This is Pastor Dow. You know, we have some very, very interesting changes that are taking place in this world. And if you don't believe that the United States of America, along with Roman Catholicism, or these Christians, because that is where Christianity comes from, and whether you people like it, understand it or not, you get all your religious traditions, your doctrine, and your theologies. They all come from Mother Rome. Only one problem though. Yahweh, the creator of the universe, who you call God, never gave any laws, statutes, and commandments to any other nations. Never did. Yahweh, who is the Elohim, or the God of the Hebrews. That's what he says clearly over in Exodus. He says that he doesn't change all throughout the prophets, including what the apostles spoke to us. But however, we have a pope here that says that this God of the Hebrews is all of a sudden going to speak to a goy, a Gentile. And he's going to give him the right to change times and seasons. Change the word. Daniel and all of them said that there was going to be a beast system that's going to rise up, that's going to seek to change times and seasons. The same people who have taken away from us holy books, an arrogant religion here that you Christians are involved in blindly and do not know. So the majority of the world are actually, if they have the Holy Bible, regardless of whose hands it was in, they still all originate and comes from the ancient Hebrew Israelites, because they are the Hebrew scriptures. And I need to submit to you that Hebrews are not those present dwellers that are called Israelis, that have many designations such as Ashkenazi, which you will read about in Genesis 10. They are the Gentiles, or Khazarians. I don't care how much conversion or whatever they say that they have done. And this is the dilemma of today, is just dismal ignorance. People refusing to acknowledge the truth. But Yahweh is not going to use a goy, those Ashkenazis or those Israelis. Neither will he use a pope from the Church of Rome. To a matter of fact, first of all, he ain't going to speak to him. That's number one, because he's already, his word is forever settled in heaven. Isaiah 8:20 says, to the law and to the testimony, if they don't speak according to his words, because there's no light in them at all. And I'm just giving you the simple version for you to understand. But Psalms 89:34, he says, my covenant I will not break. And he says, nor will I alter, you hear that? The thing that is gone out of my lips. And you people live today thinking that the Most High is going to change. He said in Malachi 3:6, and I'm going to read it from the King James Version, I am the Lord thy God, and I change not. Therefore, you sons of Jacob, that means you ancient Israelites that look like the ancient Egyptians, you sons of Jacob are not consumed. It says in Hebrews 13:8, Jesus Christ the same yesterday, today, and forever. So according to the scripture, I don't care how many people say they have some type of inspiration or unction by God, you need to understand what God it is that's giving them this, because the creator of the universe, the eternal, the Most High, said he's not going to change anything. So anyway, I'm going to read it right here. Pope Francis says, this is what he says. God has instructed me to revise the 10 Commandments. Now, he is somewhere in Ecuador or somewhere like that. Pope Francis kicked off the start of a 3-nation trip across South America today with his first mass with over 1 million Ecuadorians in attendance. That is a lot of deceived people. Man, I'm telling you, you know, the Catholic Church has a stranglehold on these societies and these countries. It's amazing. In the coastal city of, and I can't pronounce the name of the city, so I'm not even going to attempt it, delivering the Mass in Spanish, the Pope spoke about the importance of family in modern day society. It needs to be helped and strengthened, lest we lose our proper sense of the services which society as a whole provides. During his sermon, Pope Francis announced to Christians around the world that God had called upon him, instructing him, listen to this, to revise the most sacred text, the 10 Commandments, given to the Israelites by God himself on Mount Sinai. The commandments includes instructions for worship and lists several prohibited practices. Now, mind you, this is the eternal, the perfect one, who said he doesn't change. And you have a goy, a Gentile from another nation, saying that the creator of the universe is now speaking to him because the creator of the universe is going to basically change his laws to suit us today. And let's see what he says that this God is saying, because I don't believe it's the eternal, the Most High at all. Here we go. Pope Francis said Christians around the world are faced with ever-increasing temptations bought on by the evils of modern society. The Pope said the updated commandments reflecting the changing times, and including some major rewording of the existing rules, as well as the additional of 2 new commandments. This ought to be very interesting, huh? The 4th commandment, which advocates the proper respect be shown towards one's parents, has been reworded in order to include children raised by same-sex parents. Pope Francis said the 7th commandment prohibiting adultery, and among other things, homosexuality, has been removed entirely as instructed by God, in order to extend God's grace to his children. Woo-wee. First of all, number one, they got the 4th commandment all wrong, because the 4th commandment does not say anything in reference to parents. See, the problem with most of you Christians is you have religion, you have tradition, but you don't know the truth. You have no idea what the truth is at all, because you don't read. You just assume, you think that going to church, checking in time makes you saved, or saying a few words. But the 4th commandment actually has to do with who you're going to serve. I mean, after all, Yahweh, the creator of the universe, says the 7-day Sabbath. But the church, you get that? Church. Because, when we meet together, it's assembly. But the church, Roman Catholic Church, says that God changed the Sabbath from modernly day called Saturday to Sunday. Well, who you going to believe? Who's right? As for me and my house, we are going to obey the Most High. That's what we're going to do. You do what you want to do, but I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. As a matter of fact, when we read it from the King James Version given to us by the English translators, let's see what it says. It says in Exodus 20, verse 8, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the 7th day, now go to your calendar and see what day is the 7th day. You're going to find out that Sunday is the first day of the week. That's just a simple form of understanding. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day, which is, starts really at Friday night nightfall and ends at Saturday night nightfall. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day, and he hallowed it. In other words, he made it holy. So the Pope, along with the United States of America, has made it easy for homosexuals to actually enter into what they call heaven. Well, I got a newsflash for you. I don't know what God this Pope is talking about. And I don't know whose children that they're claiming. But you people are greatly deceived. I believe that the Roman Catholic Church is the great whore of the book of Revelations. Oh, you go read it for yourself. That's what it says. In conclusion of this particular article right here, addressing the inclusion of the new commandments, which bring a total number to 11. Well, it's no longer 10. Now we got 11 commandments. Pope Francis praised the rapid growth of technology in the digital age, but said progress comes at a price. The new 5th commandment, which replaces the prohibition on adultery, forbids all aspects of genetic engineering and bans the consumption of genetically modified foods. Lastly, the 11th commandment disallows personal idealization and the glorification of oneself over God. You mean oneself over the Pope, or oneself over Roman Catholicism, or oneself over Christianity. Using the Kardashians, a highly publicized celebrity family, as an example, the Pope said, selfies are an abomination in the eyes of the Lord. A spokesman for the Vatican, Father Federico, whatever his name, Lombardi, said the 11 commandments are currently being etched into marble by an Italian sculptor, and upon completion will be unveiled to the world in St. Peter's Square following an internationally televised mass. What are my words? Come out of her, my people. Yahweh's people. Because this definitely, he's not my Pope. He's nobody to me. But you Christians, whoo, man, the deception is getting it in it. And notice, this all comes on the heel of the great beast, the great Satan, the United States of America, under Satan's authority, passing by the gods of America, the Supreme Court. The change in their views of so-called biblical morality, or morality across the country from a secular point of view. How that they now have sanctioned and made holy and legal homosexual unions. Well, again, I disagree. What saith you? Hey, are you going to continue to keep remaining a Christian? And are you going to continue to keep believing from the theology and a philosophical perspective and point of view that the Romans 13, the way you believe that the powers that be, they are ordained by Yah, and they are ministers of God to execute vengeance? Now, do you believe that? Do you believe that it's the state? Do you believe it's civil authority? I mean, again, ministers. Go look behind the word. Diakonos, meaning someone that is in charge of the services of an assembly in what you call a church. It has nothing to do with civil authority. But what can you tell you people who refuse to study, show yourself approved? I do know this. I do know that Galatians 4:16 says, have I become your enemy because I tell you the truth? That's the only reason why I have enemies, simply because I tell the truth, and the truth is uncomfortable.